These days, people don't often just show up where they haven't been invited. For instance, my uncle is always telling my parents, stop by whenever you like. You're always welcome. And they never do. My parents don't show up anywhere unannounced, and they definitely don't go anywhere where they have not been invited, even with an open invitation, like at my uncle's house. But the moment my uncle invites my parents over for dinner, they always go, and they always have a wonderful time. The same is true for your customers. A vague all are welcome isn't enough. People need a clear invitation, and that's where most brands miss the mark. And that's why so many brands struggle with customer acquisition, even though it's a foundation for growth. Too many brands are taking a very passive build it and they will come approach. And it just doesn't work, especially not consistently. So in this video, I'm sharing 17 customer acquisition strategies to help you win more customers, including from those communities that brands too often overlook. And all these strategies serve as a clear invitation that your ideal customers need to know that you designed the experience with them in mind. Now, I've grouped these 17 strategies into 5 different buckets, so let's dive into bucket number 1. The first category is content and media. And the first strategy that we're going to talk about within that category is influencer marketing that reflects the community. This strategy is all about working with people who are trusted by the communities that you want to reach to introduce your products and services to them. This summer, I got all caught up in the Love Island USA Season 7 craze, and 2 fan favorites from the show are Nick and Alandria, who left the show as a couple. They've been hired as influencers for a few brands since leaving the villa, including for Kulani Kinnis Swimwear and Agua de Kefir. Now, I know I personally hadn't heard of either of these brands prior to seeing Alandria appear in them. And now I follow both of these accounts and plan on buying from each of them in the coming weeks. And I've seen a lot of people, particularly those just like me, Black women who hadn't heard of these brands prior to Alandria specifically, doing campaigns with them, and now people, including a lot of Black women, are going out and buying the products. One woman even did a mini photo shoot recreating the images shot for Nick and Alandria for Kalani Kinnis to show how she inspired her. Focus on partnering with influencers that have the audiences that includes one or more of the identities of the ideal consumers that you want to reach. Just one thing to note, the influencers that you partner with don't have to be mega influencers like Nick and Alandria. You just have to work with people who have engaged audiences or who are parts of the audience of the identities of the people that you want to reach. All right, so the second strategy is strategic partnerships and collaborations. Strategic partnerships and collaborations with people who are relevant to the ideal customers that you want to reach is a super smart way to acquire new customers. One more Nick and Alandria example and we're done, I promise. Cosmetics brand NYX Professional Makeup collaborated with them to launch the Nick-Alandria Lip Combo. Consumers who bought the combo were able to get access to an inclusive live virtual fireside chat with the duo where they could also ask their questions live. And that Nick-Alandria Lip Combo, it sold out in just 5 hours. And Levi's collaborated with superstar Beyonce for a series of campaigns around the time of her Cowboy Carter album and tour. All right, so the third strategy we're going to walk through is targeted media placement. Now, another smart way to get visibility in your journey to acquire new customers is with targeted media placements where your ideal customers are hanging out. And specifically, I want to highlight media placements with minority-owned media. Minority-owned media has a unique place in the hearts and minds of people who are from underrepresented and underserved communities. And it's a super smart way to reach a very targeted audience of the people who have the identities that you want to reach. Toyota Corolla did this recently when they partnered with Sonoro, a Latino-focused media company, to create a sponsored podcast series targeted to reach Latino consumers. Now, there's so many forms of media these days, from YouTube to podcasts to newsletters and more. The important thing to remember is that it is no longer about just reaching general market audiences. There's a new general market, and consumers really love to see brands investing in their communities. So when you place your ads in channels where your ideal customers are already tuned in, people who are part of those communities will appreciate it more. I personally pay a lot more attention to brands that are advertising on Black-owned media channels. I watched the Baby This Is Keke Palmer podcast recently, and I distinctly remember that it was sponsored by Airbnb. That kind of brand recall is not something that is common for me, but I really appreciated that Airbnb was very intentional in taking the time to advertise on that platform to invite me to be their customer again. The fourth strategy is all about inclusive and localized content. No one wants to feel like an afterthought. And people also have a hard time connecting with content that they feel wasn't made for them and their specific identities and their specific needs. That's why creating content that is inclusive and feels like it was specifically designed for the specific identities you serve, because it is designed for them, will increase the likelihood that they will see it and consume it, and take the next step forward in the journey to becoming your customer. HubSpot implements a multilingual content strategy to reach consumers who have the problem that their brand solves, but part of their identity is that they speak a different language. This has enabled them to acquire a significant number of new customers in more than 135 markets around the world. So the fifth example, and the last one in this category, is all about leveraging user-generated content from the community. Recently, as I was scrolling through TikTok, as I often do, I saw a video from a mom who was calling out, or should I say calling in, Pampers for their baby wipes. Specifically, she was frustrated with that their functionality wasn't practical for many parents who are holding or stabilizing a baby with one hand while trying to change a diaper, while also trying to pull a wipe out with the other hand from the package. Now, with Pampers, pulling out one wipe often meant pulling out 5 or more. Not ideal at all. Now, the comments were filled with parents who were agreeing with her and shared her frustration because they had experienced the same thing. And you know who else was in the comments of that post? The brand Rascals. They make baby wipes. They leaned into the content this creator had made, and they used her video and made a duet of the original video and a series of other TikToks on the same theme, showcasing that their product does exactly what she was frustrated about Pampers' product not doing. Eventually, Rascals collaborated directly with that creator as an influencer, as she did reviews for the product that they gifted her. It was a beautiful organic moment that the brand was totally able to capitalize on, purely from user-generated content. And then they invited and converted a boatload of new customers as a result. The brand leveraged user-generated content to lean into a classic copywriting principle, which is you need to enter the conversation already taking place in your customer's mind. Now, I'm not even sure that I had even heard of the Rascals brand before I saw this whole thing go down. But based upon how they responded to a conversation their consumers were already having in their minds and demonstrating how amazing they are, I would seek out this brand specifically if I ever have a need to use baby wipes in the future. Lean hard into leveraging user-generated content as a way to invite more people into your brand to be your customer. Whenever you do, I'm sure you'll be able to attract exactly the kind of ideal customer that you are looking to reach. All right, so the second category of customer acquisition strategies focuses on community and culture. And the first strategy in this category is all about elevating community stories. Brands who are engaging with this particular customer acquisition strategy are really taking the time to elevate the communities that they want to reach, which is especially meaningful to marginalized communities. In doing this, brands are intentional about telling nuanced stories to bring to life positive and perhaps unknown stories about specific communities. And of course, finding smart ways to connect those stories to their brand. In doing this, these brands are elevating these marginalized communities and their stories as the hero of the story rather than their own brand, which is much more effective. And in doing so, it supports an even greater sense of pride, nostalgia, and wonder about their communities. And in the process, it's even educating other peoples who aren't part of those communities with these stories as well. Ralph Lauren has done this recently with 2 special edition collections. The first was with Naomi Glasses, in which it highlighted the rich weaving traditions of Native American tribes in the US. They did it again most recently with the Ralph Lauren Oaks Bluff collection that even had an accompanying documentary that highlighted the rich history of the Oaks Bluffs community on Martha's Vineyard and its place in American history and Black history and culture. All right, so the next customer acquisition strategy that we're going to walk through is all about sponsoring community events and being present locally. A lot of times consumers, and especially those from from underrepresented and underserved communities will feel like brands don't really care about them. They feel like brands are just doing the bare minimum or just giving a little bit of attention so that these consumers will buy their stuff. So the great way to combat that they don't really care about us point of view is to demonstrate that you actually care about these communities that you want to serve. For instance, sponsoring local events, local sports teams, volunteering for local charities and causes. All of these go a long way towards establishing your presence, participation, and support of these communities that you would like to serve. A local dentist sponsored the car line tags at my daughter's school, which is something that is very much needed for all the people who were going every day to drop off and pick up their kids. And on the back of the tag were details about a local pediatric dentist that, because I look at their information every day whenever I pick up my daughter, I'm looking at that car tag in my rear view mirror. Now, as a result, they are top of mind and I'm considering switching my daughter's dentist to this new dentist. All right, so the next strategy is all about acknowledging heritage and cultural celebrations. So there's no shortage of elements that are really core to people's cultures. And there's even a bunch of standard events and celebrations on calendars for different cultures to celebrate and observe. Whenever brands acknowledge the heritage of the people that they want to serve, it's like a natural invitation to those communities that's inviting them to be your customer. Sprinkles Cupcakes does this really well. At different times of the year, the brand introduces special edition cupcakes that have names and flavors unique to different cultures. They had Coquito Cupcakes in December, giving a nod to Puerto Rican culture, and they introduced a Vietnamese cupcake and even a Cuban coffee cupcake, featuring flavors that gives a nod to cultural heritage, especially at a time when other brands are not acknowledging the heritage of different identities of consumers, causes consumers to take notice and to feel seen and welcomed into your business. IKEA acknowledged cultural celebrations with a line of products consumers could use for their Diwali celebrations. Now that invitation works, as I've seen several videos of consumers sharing their IKEA Diwali hauls. Another customer acquisition strategy is all about standing up for causes that matter to the communities you want to serve. Increasingly, consumers are making buying decisions based upon their values. One study showed that 82% of consumers want to buy from brands that share their values. So make it clear what your values are and then live your values and then talk about it proudly. Talk about what you're doing to live your values, talk about your activism and what you're doing to make a change, and even the causes that you support and are working to make a difference in. Ice cream maker Ben & Jerry's has in the past been a very vocal brand in terms of the causes that are important to the brand and the clear actions it takes to educate consumers about those causes, offering ways to support and about the actions a brand is taking to make a difference in those causes as well. I know plenty of people in the past who have chosen Ben & Jerry's ice cream specifically because of their activism and their stance on various issues and how they're going about living their values. To be clear, I am not recommending performance activism. However, don't be shy about speaking up about the causes that are important to you and that are related to your brand values. The people that you want to serve won't know about your brand values and how you live them if you don't tell them. All right, so the next customer acquisition strategy we're going to walk through is responsible marketing. Now, one of the tenets of responsible marketing, which is a component of inclusive marketing, is solving real problems for the communities you want to reach. Solving a real problem that is unique to a particular community or identity that you want to reach is a tremendous way to invite them to be your customer, because you're basically helping to remove specific barriers that they have, but other consumers with different identities don't. And these barriers often prevent these consumers with this specific identity from achieving success at the same rates as other people. MasterCard's True Name card is a great example of this. By allowing transgender and non-binary customers to use their chosen name on cards, they removed a major barrier for consumers who wanted to use a credit card to make a purchase. Solving that real problem was an invitation, not just in words, but in action too. Okay, so the third category of customer acquisition and specifically strategies to invite consumers to be your customer is product and experience. And the first strategy in this category is products designed for them. This is one of my favorite customer acquisition strategies, especially when it comes to acquiring consumers from underrepresented and underserved communities. And it's all about designing products and services specifically for them. It is the ultimate signal that this brand is for you because the brand spent time specifically designing a product with your needs in mind. Now, of course, that doesn't have to be the entire product line, but rather it's something that communicates we see you. Now, recently, me and my family went to the restaurant Cooper's Hawk to celebrate my aunt's birthday. And when I say the gluten-free menu was extensive, it was extensive. I texted my husband while we were there to let him know that we were going to be coming back to this restaurant just because the sheer number of delicious gluten-free items they had on the menu was stellar. The number of gluten-free items on that menu was definitely a lever the brand pulled from a customer acquisition standpoint. Game maker Mattel did it whenever they made many of their games, including Uno, colorblind accessible. Those accessibility features was a clear signal to the colorblind community to invite them to be their customer. All right, the next customer acquisition strategy is all about designing experiences tailored for a specific community. Now, this is another customer acquisition strategy that I really do love because I think it's really important to deliver not just products and communications, but experiences that make your ideal customers, especially those from underrepresented and underserved communities, feel like they belong with you. Walmart did this by implementing sensory-friendly hours in all its stores across the US and Puerto Rico from the hours of 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. every day. They adjusted the environment for those hours in the store for people who have sensory processing disorder so that they can experience a much less stimulating environment for them to come in and shop in a much more peaceful environment. Similarly, some Chuck E. Cheese locations offer sensory sensitive Sundays on the first Sunday of every month, where they are open at a specific time solely for families of children who have autism and other special needs by providing them a less overstimulating environment during that time period. Another strategy is all about personalized outreach. Now, I've joined a few programs over the years in my business because the person who was running the program specifically took the time to reach out to me directly to invite me to be a part of the program. One was a paid mastermind and another was a mentorship program. Perhaps I would have joined on my own, perhaps I wouldn't have. But I do know that the personal invitation made me take a harder look at the program to assess whether or not it was going to be something that was right for me and my business goals. Now, depending on the type of product or service that you have, when it's a right fit, reach out to people that you already have some sort of relationship with and send them a personal invitation to be your customer if you feel that what you're offering is a right fit for them. All right, so we're going to move on to the fourth category, which brings us to representation and voice. And the first strategy in this category is all about employee advocacy and representation. Representation matters, and it matters a whole heck of a lot more than many marketers think that it does. So whenever you have the opportunity to represent more people in the visual imagery that your brand puts forth, it quickly sends a signal and an unspoken invitation to the people that you want to serve that I see you, you're welcome here, please come and check us out. Wistia, a video marketing platform, has done a really great job of using their own team members who have a variety of different backgrounds and identities. They include them in their educational videos, trainings, and ads. This cross-section of identities makes Wistia's ideal customers from a broad range of backgrounds feel like the brand is for people like them. The next example is all about co-creating with the community. If you invite me to create something with you, I am much more likely to do so. And then, of course, I'm going to support whatever we created after the fact. Co-creating with the communities or people who are parts of the communities that you want to serve is best practice in inclusive marketing as well as in customer acquisition. For one, it helps you create a product and/or communications that helps you meet the unique needs of the communities that you want to reach. And taking the time to get it right by involving people who are parts of the community in the process shows a degree of respect and that you are really taking the time to get it right and to produce something that's really going to work well for them. It clearly signals that the brand values the opinions and the lived experiences of the people within the community. It's a pure invitation to be your customer. So whenever possible, use this strategy as a great way to attract more of the people that you want to serve. Hair care brand Got2b does this. They have an advisory council of beauty influencers with different identities and from different communities that they use to co-create marketing promotions with and to get ideas about various product offerings. Okay, so the fifth and last category of customer acquisition strategies we're going to talk about is all about incentives and conversion. Really additional areas that motivate people to take action. So the first strategy in this category is all about offering relevant incentives. So recently my daughter Luna started school, and on the first day after we dropped her off and we were leaving the school complex, we saw there was a whole line, actually there were two lines of cars, and walking in the middle of this line was the manager at a local Chick-fil-A that had just opened down the street, and he was passing out coupons for people to be able to go and get a free breakfast sandwich from that at Chick-fil-A. This was a really smart move to give parents or caregivers who are going to be picking up and dropping off kids to go and stop by this new Chick-fil-A because they're going to be going there each and every day to the school. The manager gave us 3 coupons that day, and I gotta say, if me and my husband weren't both gluten-free, we definitely would have used them, and I'm sure we would have spent a whole heck of a lot more on our visit there beyond just getting that breakfast sandwich for free. Look for opportunities to invite your ideal customers to be your customers by providing them some type of relevant incentive that gets them to come and check you out. And the last strategy we're going to talk about today is all about proactively answering identity-based questions. And you can do this to really enhance your SEO efforts. This strategy is really overlooked by a lot of brands and marketers, but it really is a good one to help you acquire people who are part of underrepresented and underserved communities. This is particularly helpful for those consumers who have a particular need that needs to be accommodated with the brands that they are engaging with and buying from. And these questions are for people who are actively looking for a solution to a problem that they have. So it makes total sense that you would do what you need to do to invite them in to be your customer. For instance, people who have mobility issues, such as being in a wheelchair, will often want to confirm before they go to like a restaurant, a store, a hotel, any place that has a physical location that is going to be wheelchair accessible and that they will be able to maneuver the way that they need to. Too many brands don't have that information readily available and easily accessible online. So taking the time to answer those types of questions with content that you publish on your website or on your Google business profile, and even creating blog posts and videos that answer those questions proactively can really go a long way towards helping you acquire customers who need to get some questions answered first before they can move forward with being your customer. Remember, your ideal customers, and especially those people from underrepresented and underserved communities, need to have an answer to this fundamental question before moving forward with you. And that question is, will this product, service, or experience work for someone like me? Taking the time to proactively answer questions that demonstrate that people like you belong here will help you acquire more of the people that you want to serve. So there you have it. 17 proven customer acquisition strategies to help you acquire more of the people that you want to serve, including those who may have felt overlooked in the past. Now remember, strategies only work if you actually use them. The brands that succeed don't just invite customers one time, they keep showing up, measuring what works and optimizing along the way. Besides, if you've ignored particular communities that are often underrepresented and underserved for a long time, you're probably going to need more than one invitation to get them to trust you and your intentions. And if you want some help figuring out which of these strategies are right for you and your business and how to put them into action, check out the New Rules strategy session. That's where I work with you to help you map out a customer acquisition strategy that's designed for today's customers. You'll find a link with all the details in the description below. Until next time, remember, everyone deserves to have a place where they belong. Let's use our individual and collective power to ensure more people feel like they do. Thanks so much for watching. Talk to you soon.